Alrighty, guys, welcome back to the G-Man Show. We're on the internet together, and we're looking at a couple of quick clips. If you want to see the originals without me ranting, raving, commenting, you can always find them in the video description, as always. Let's jump in, and this is about rental prices, the upward pressure on rental prices, and also the higher percentage of people ending up homeless.
In almost every suburb across the country, Australians are feeling the pressure of a tight rental market. In Riverwood, a working-class pocket of Sydney, 19 kilometres from the CBD, Arafat Manan and his growing family are being forced out of their second home in 12 months.
All right, I want to say one thing here. The big problem here, at risk of once again being called a racist, because somebody will call me a racist in the comments. It's a blatant fact. We just have too many people coming into this country. That's it. That is it. I will say it until I am black and blue in the face, or blue in the face. Another thing, what to these people who don't have much security, and I'm not saying it's their fault, they don't have a lot of security, housing security, and they keep pumping out kids, making their situation even harder. I don't know.
It's a bit overwhelming, and we're expecting our second child. In October, and we just received our vacant notice for this property we're living in 2 weeks ago.
How long have you been in this property for?
Nearly 9 months, and we just received our eviction notice, as I mentioned.
He says the landlord has decided that a family member will take over the property. For the last 7 years, Arafat Manan rented just down the road, but was forced out in November. All
right. So that excuse, that can be used, and then the property cannot be put up for rent legally anyway for another 6 months. Now, however well that is policed, well, I don't know. I've never tried to be dodgy in that manner. You need to sign statutory declarations and all that sort of stuff as the landlord if you want to do that. But, however, it is a way for a landlord to get family to move in or even leave them vacant so they can increase the base rent. So if you're in demand, growing and gentrifying suburb, like these people probably are, they don't probably have a lot of capacity to pay more money. You can get unscrupulous landlords like scumbags that will try and pull every cent and every dollar out of people. So they'll displace these people using that excuse and move somebody in and charge an extra $100, $200 a week, and the loss on the rent will claw itself back over a few months, and then they've set up a new baseline, right, for the bottom end of the rent, what the market can expect to pay. Or, alternatively, they haven't been great tenants, and that's the only way you can get rid of people now.
The move, his rent had skyrocketed.
From 500 in 2 years, it went 650 straight away in one jump, and from 650 to 720.
The rent at his current home is also $720 per week. He says much more than half of his income is put to covering the costs of his housing.
If you just add the utility and other things, then literally 85%.
And think about it. Like if you're working on the average punter's wage, making $1,000 a week, or I don't know what it is now, $1,500 a week, and your rent's $700 plus your utilities that are going through the roof. This is not a great place to live. It has gone to the absolute dogs. It wasn't so long ago, guys. I am working class. I've had a working class upbringing. I know what it's like for a family to not have a lot of money. But it was never struggle street to this extreme, where just the cost of living will eat up an entire worker's wage. Absolute crime. And it's going to get worse. It's going to get worse. Electricity have gone up again. More taxes coming in. The government is brainstorming on how to raise their revenues by taxing in all sorts of different manners. So life's going to get harder.
Really no savings at all.
Not far away, the suburb of Revesby has seen some of the biggest rental growth in Sydney in the last 12 months. Units alone have gone up more than 20%. G'day, Dean.
G'day, mate.
Dean Stoyanovsky has been managing properties in this area for decades.
She's a bit steep, Mike.
That's right, it keeps going up. He's showing us a property where the rent has jumped almost $200 a week in 2 years. Dean, tell me about this place.
Mate, it's a 5-bedroom home, 2 bath, 1 car. It's going for $700 a week.
Why is this sitting at $700 a week?
Oh, Mike, as you can see, it's in its original state, and given the prices that are going around the area for a lot newer place, the owner was a bit more reasonable in seeking $700 for this place.
So property
$700 a week for a place, really. Look, it probably could do with a really good clean, maybe a lick of paint that might come up a lot better, maybe a new stove, couple of new, maybe spend 10, 15 grand on it, do a really mini renovation on it. It is not reasonable, $700 a week to live in a joint that is just about being knocked over. Well, it is a 5-bedroom home. And it has to my understanding, it had a bigger package of land, right? So the guy's basically renting it out, based probably on the size of land. The dwelling is secondary. But this is one of the things I do have. Like, I have been involved in property investing before. Anyone who has a home like this and is expecting to get top dollar, absolute slumlord. Absolute slumlord. They're the worst of the worst. They're the kind of people that give landlords a bad name. It's just like the tenants that kick holes in walls are the bad ones that give renters a bad name. But I think there are more and more of these. And once again, at the risk of being sound racist, the most unscrupulous landlords that I've seen have been foreigners. I'm not saying where from. But they are absolutely ruthless when it comes to trying to get every little last cent out of that investment without improving it in any way. That's all I'm going to say on that.
like this, how many people would be applying for it?
Oh, given this one, at most open homes, we get up to 10 groups. You know, we've had people that put applications through prior to seeing the property, trying to get their foot in the door earlier.
It still shows that we are in a rental crisis. We're just moving away from the extreme conditions that we had seen previously.
Dr. Nicola Powell is the Domain Group's Chief of Research and Economics.
We have record high rents across the vast majority of our major capital cities, but one of the key things that we've started to see is a slowdown in the pace of rental price growth. What that means is rents are rising in some areas, but particularly for house rents, they've actually plateaued over the most recent quarter across many of our capital cities.
Well, of course, because landlords need to recoup or get money for their rental property. I know they're seen as evil parasites or vampires by a lot of people. The rates, insurances, council rates, interest rates, the cash rate obviously pushing the interest rates. Everything's gone through the roof. Cost of maintenance. So all these things are being pushed up through inflation and the aftermath of that COVID money printing. What do you think's going to happen? Private landlords are not also St Vincent de Paul or the op shop. They need to somewhat be able to hold that asset. So people are getting squeezed in all ways. So you have all these things happening, then landlords are passing on the cost, pushing up rent. The only thing that I believe will really slow it down, is number one, yes, we need to cut back immigration. I'll say it in every single video I make that is related to Australia and the economy. We need to cut it back. But they won't do that because that's tax revenue that they won't get. They're importing tax revenue. And the interest rates to reduce. Now, a reasonable landlord who is not a scumbag, and they are out there, there are plenty of them out there who are happy to have good tenants who are looking after the place and you don't have to worry and wake up at night, you know, what's going to happen in the house next week, what bill's going to come in, what things are going to be broken, what argument am I going to have. generally, they're not going to raise the rent very much, if not at all, if they're neutral in holding their property. It might be $10 a week or something, if that. A good tenant is worth their weight in gold. So the rates coming down, especially if they come down another 100 basis points, like they're saying, who knows what's going to happen? All the economists are wrong anyway. I can make a punt. It'll be just as right or wrong as the experts. But if those come down, there'll be less upward pressure on rents. But they're still going to keep going up. Lack of supply, increased demand. You're importing demand every single day, just like the couple that we saw, the first couple that were most likely recent immigrants or have been in the country for a few years. The new Australia, that's what it is. Hundreds of thousands of them coming in every single year, having a hard time just like us, trying to get rentals or get into the property market. I've got nothing against immigrants. So I can understand why you would want to come here. It's a good place to live. Way better than where their home countries are and the opportunities for them. The government, though, the government's not going to do anything about it because it's money. I have an issue with the government doing this, not the actual people.
The country, the latest domain data has the median asking price for rentals sitting at $650 a week for both houses and units. The most expensive place for a rental remains in Sydney, where the median weekly rent for a house is $780 and $740 for a unit. Perth and Canberra are sitting second. Hobart is the cheapest.
We have seen multiple years where tenants were facing double-digit increases in asking rents. Nobody's wages has increased as much as what we have seen in asking rents over that 5-year period.
After you, Mike.
In Sydney's southern suburbs at Mortdale, $790 a week is the asking price for this 3-bedroom house. What are prospective tenants telling you about the market conditions right now?
They're telling you it's very tough, very expensive.
What factor is supply playing in all of this?
Yeah, there's not enough supply.
We haven't had enough supply.
Oh, wow, guys, I could do this job. I could be the expert real estate agent. Yeah, there's not enough houses. Yeah, that's why the prices are up. Think about this. All these people are screaming out for more regulations, controls on private landlords. The renters are going to end up paying for this. These very people that are screaming for it, having 5-star quality places with every house has double glazed windows and everything's perfect and all the electrics are done every year and all the gas is checked every year and this, that, and the other. Rental caps, they're trying to scream for that. Trying to scream for getting the houses, 6-star bloody energy rating. Getting solar panels and batteries so that tenants don't have to pay high electricity costs. Who pays for that? The landlord. And that's going to get passed through to tenants, pushing the market up. So the government needs to stop fiddling with it.
Meet population growth. We haven't seen enough investment activity across our different capital cities, and particularly during the peak of the pandemic, we saw a reduction in number of people per household. And when you see a reduction in household size, what that means is you need more homes to house the same amount of Australians.
The national vacancy rate, the percentage of properties in the private rental market which are sitting empty, remains very low. Nationally, it's sitting at 0.9% for the June quarter. In Darwin, Hobart, Adelaide and Perth, it's even tighter. Sydney is at 1.1% and the highest vacancy rate is in Melbourne at 1.3%.
Melbourne's had a bit of a plateau in terms of rents increases and property appreciation. Victoria's gone to the dogs. Well, I don't know why you want to buy a property to invest in Victoria. Basically, all you are in Victoria as a property investor is somebody who donates money, high values of money through many different taxes to the government. To the SRO.
Just 4 kilometres from Melbourne CBD is the inner city suburb of Kensington, where rents for units have seen some of the highest jumps.
So this is fairly typical of what you'll see in the Kensington market at the moment, so 3-bedroom unit.
Okay, how much a week is this going
This
for?
is $630 per week.
Where does it
in
sit?
terms of the Melbourne market, this is right on average. This is right on par with what you'll see out there. Got a car space down in the community bay.
Just across the river in Maribyrnong, these record high rents are most evident in one-bedroom apartments. This one, with water glimpses, is up for lease for $450 a week.
Prior to COVID, this would have hovered around $300, $350. During COVID, it dropped right down to about $280, and now it's going to re-enter at that higher price.
The current vacancy rate seen across the country has property analysts declaring it a landlord's market.
A landlord's market is when the vacancy rate sits below 2%. For a balanced rental market, we need that vacancy rate to be sitting between 2 and 3%.
This is a...
Yeah, well, houses. The vacancy rates are going to remain low due to these factors that I've been harping on about for the first half of this video. Obviously, it's this immigration. Stop it. Everyone's paying, apart from the government. The government gets money through the visa process and through other charges and all of that in which these immigrants have to pay to get over here. Probably their life savings. Needs to stop. Can't build enough houses. You got 600,000 people coming into the country. I don't even know what the number is. It's something stupid like that. Every single year.
A 2-bedroom place.
And what's our population? Like 27, 28 million. That is just going to go through the roof. It's not going to be able to keep up. Resources can't keep up in the major cities. People say, oh, move regional and move out to Cuba, Petey. There's nothing there. Unless they make something there.
This one's a little bit unusual. It's on the market for $425 per week, largely because the owner's also got it up for sale.
Are we seeing a lot of these properties being put to market?
Yeah, unfortunately at the moment there are a lot of owners who are cashing out. The introduction of lots of taxes, minimum standards legislation means that it's costing owners more and it's harder for them to be able to hold on to those investments long term.
We have seen
100%. And most landlords, I know I get a bit of shit when I sort of not even stick up, I just say facts about landlords. Most landlords they're not Gina Reinhardt guys. They're not, what's his name, Harry Triggerbuff from Westfield or Vicinity Centres or whatever his name is. Metricon. Whatever the company is, that billionaire. Right? You're not sitting there all evil. Average punter who's been able to save up some capital and put that capital and leveraged up debt to try and have a property that maybe in 20, 30 years they can sell and add to their nest egg or give it to their kids. And you got the government fiddling it and making it next to impossible to be able to financially justify holding it. Most property investors hold it a loss. Now, I know you get someone here, no, you know, blah, 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 blah. If you've bought recently in the last 5 years, you're in the red every single month, unless you're claiming big depreciation from a new build or something at the end of the year. In the red. Stupidest thing ever. All right, we do another quick one. We'll play this video out. This is about homelessness. Obviously, a very much interrelated topic. This video is called National Crisis as Homelessness Worsens Under the Albanese Government.
Rates, particularly for women and girls, have worsened during the Albanese government's first term in office. Homelessness Australia says data from the Australian Institute of Health and Welfare shows the number of people accessing homelessness services each month has increased by 10% since May 2022. For women and girls, the increase was 14%. Homelessness Australia Chief Executive Kate Colvin joins us now to discuss this. Kate, can you tell us about this increase and where it's being felt most?
Look, we're seeing this increase across the country, and one of the starkest increases is for women and girls who are already...
Can I ask why man is invisible in this picture? It should say homelessness worsens under the government across the board. There is higher chances of homelessness and more instances, not just women and girls. They're not talking about male homelessness. Why a male's not worth putting on this. I don't know. I guess women and girls are going to be a lot more vulnerable, or seem to be a lot more vulnerable and more likely to be displaced because of probably DV type stuff or divorces and all that sort of thing. And Yeah, I'm not going to get too controversial with what I'm going to say here. Let's just keep playing it.
Already homeless when they first came to a homeless service, and that has increased 20% over this period. And what that shows us is that women are not getting the help they need to avoid homelessness. They're not getting that timely intervention that might prevent a period of homelessness. So they're coming to homeless services already with nowhere to go, perhaps having exhausted friends and family network.
Have a look at what our country is. Tents in the park. Tents in the park. I'm all about this, not just for women and girls, for everybody. They're not talking about all the guys you see lying on the streets of Melbourne, middle of winter without a shirt on, lying on the concrete with his dog next to him or whatever. Oh, let's get those guys off the street and help them. They're not talking about that. Okay, I think everyone needs to be included here. I'm not saying women and girls isn't a valid thing. Absolutely is. They're more vulnerable physically. But, come on. Let's look after everybody here. I think everyone is struggling. I wholeheartedly agree. I would be happy if they diverted our tax money that they're blowing on a whole bunch of other things like the Commonwealth Games and failed contracts and with road constructors. Was it East-West Link or something like that? It was like $1 billion. I would be more than happy if they cut all that stuff or wind it back and they start focusing on these social problems, getting people off the street, even if it's into temporary accommodation. Temporary accommodations that are built on big blocks of land out there that they rent off farmers or something, and they put little mini houses on them or something like that until people can get back on their feet. That is a better use of money. I'd be all about that. Instead of blowing it on bullshit and what they call the AUKUS, the amount of money they spend on that and sending money over to the Ukraine. And I feel like a boomer in this one. It's just triggering me. I get sad to see Australia in this state. I really do. Homelessness is horrible. I've never been homeless, but I definitely can empathise with people who are homeless, how stressful, how hopeless you would feel and how discarded by society. Well, you are really if you're ending up on the street. No safety nets.
To find accommodation and now just have nowhere.
And so, I mean, that's the immediate reason. If we broaden that out, what's feeding into that?
So the biggest issue that we face is that there's just not rentals that people can afford. So, you know, the government has made some really welcome investments in social housing, but the reality is that the problem of in the rental crisis has grown over decades. And
the government has done that. The government hasn't done anything good. The government has caused this issue. But they'll point at the private landlord because they're the ones they're the ones who personally have to raise the price due to these market pressures. The government has done it. The government is not going to help you. Look at already what's happened since Albo's gotten in. Everyone's going to say, oh, you're a liberal shill and all this. Guys, I'm not political in any way. I can have the clarity to look at all this stuff and information I see without feeling binded to a political leaning. This country is stuffed. And everyone went and voted for him because he promised you're going to get something off him. You're going to get a reduction in your HEX fees. He's going to increase the Centrelink, all the benefits, whatever it is. He's going to build 1 billion houses. He's going to bring the cost of living down. All those things. The opposite has happened. They've missed the building target. They're not going to make it. The ambitious target that everyone knew they weren't going to make anyway. Electricity prices are going up. Supermarket, it's all going up. Petrol. More taxes they're bringing in. Now they're increasing GST potentially. They're sitting in Treasury scheming on how to do it. How do we get the most money out? They're investing in a lot more speed cameras. I've seen articles about that. Oh, it's for your safety, guys. Yeah, okay. Because going 2 kilometres over the limit or whatever, 4 kilometres over the limit and getting $400 fine. That's about your safety, is it?
And the commitments that have been made are not enough to keep increasing the proportion of social housing as a proportion of all dwellings. So what we're calling on this parliament to do, this government to do, is to invest more in social housing so that we get 1 in 10 of all dwellings is a social housing property. And that would just mean that when someone goes looking for a rental, they can find a place they can afford, and they're much less likely to become homeless in that circumstance.
So looking at this trend, is this likely to continue if there's not that response that you're calling for from the government?
Yes, unfortunately we are seeing things getting worse, and that's having a really devastating impact on the front line of the housing crisis in homelessness services. So services already turn away 72,000 people each year. We know that another 46,000 people can't get through the door because services are so overwhelmed. They've sort of gone on bypass to respond to people who are already seeking help. So, another thing that we're really flagging with the government is the need to invest in homelessness services so that there's someone there to help you when you come looking for help. But the other important priority is to increase income support. It's not rocket science. If people don't have enough income, they can't afford to pay their rent. And that's a really major reason why people become homeless. And, for women and girls, another major reason is domestic and family violence. So whilst we still have poverty and violence in the community, we will still have homelessness.
Do you have evidence that those calls...
Yep, but the government has to find the money from somewhere to pay for it, and they're not going to do that. Let's send money over to Ukraine and all that, where you got people lying on the street with services that can't even help these people. There's a mantra around homeless people that they're all bums and violent people and people that have made horrible decisions and drug addicts and all that sort of stuff. Yes, some of that is true, I guess. But more and more people hitting on the street now, they're just your everyday people, can't keep their head above water, can't afford rent, maybe can't even find a place to get caught in the trap. Very hard to get out of that trap. You're homeless, you might be jobless. People say, just go get a job. Yeah, and you rock up to a job interview and say you live under a bridge, and you might not be able to present yourself in a way that someone would expect. They're not going to hire you, so it's a trap. It's very hard to get out of that. Not a lot of empathy for homeless. I've talked about this a number of times on this channel. Melbourne, I hate going to the Melbourne CBD. It's just depressing. A lot of mentally ill people, drug-affected people, due to the pressures of being homeless. Lives destroyed. Never coming back. Walking around, screaming, yelling at the sky, yelling at each other, fighting, lying on the ground. You got piss, people pissing all over the shops there, and you got piss all over the street. Joint's an absolute basket case. Absolutely gone to the dogs. Ever since COVID. It was even bad before then, but ever since COVID, and ever since all these lockdowns and whatever happened, especially with the property, the rental prices, the cost of utilities, just the cost of living. It isn't just the rent. It's everything combined that puts people out. Can't afford to live. And I hate to be a doomer on this channel because I'm generally a positive and positive and optimistic outlook kind of person. But I think in the short term, it's the next 2-3 years isn't going to be great. It's not going to be great.
Will be answered.
Look, certainly we've got a good line of communication open with the government. Really, as Parliament opens, our call on the government is to make homelessness a top priority. So, we do know that they're considering these issues, but there's a lot of priorities that government are dealing with, and we need homelessness to be top of the agenda because this is a national crisis and it needs urgent national action.
For once, I agree with them on that particular point. Something needs to be done here. Nothing will be done. Can it be kicked down the road? We'll keep sending money to foreign countries, hundreds of millions of dollars that could be used to uplift these services or create some sort of even compounds. I know it sounds that sounds like a bad word, but you think about it. If they get a big block of farmers' land, they buy it off a farm or rent it off them or whatever it is for a certain amount of time, lease it. They could probably put hundreds of little dwellings on it, spend a bit of money to make them nice for people, give people the opportunity to get back on their feet, almost like just temporary. You know, it could be 6 months, a year, whatever it is. Help people out. Help people out. Because once you're on the street, I'm talking about this trap. As someone who's never been on the street, by the way, but I just really empathise. Once you're on, anyone who's been homeless, tell me, what did you do to get off the street? Or are you still on the street? I'd like to know what it's like on the ground, apart from these people reporting on it from ivory towers. Thanks, guys. I really appreciate you watching my videos through to the end. And once again, appreciate your comments and likes and all that. The channel's growing, so I appreciate it. If you want to subscribe and be a part of it. Thank you.